Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got our board, so we'll go ahead and get started. Roll call.
Mr. Reagan?
Here.
Ms. Navadia? Here. Mr. Ellis?
Here. Okay. So tonight we just have 3 members, which is a quorum, so we can go ahead and conduct business. Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I will.
I second.
Okay, motion and second. Roll call.
Mr. Reagan?
Aye.
Ms. Navadia?
Aye.
Mr. Ellis?
Aye. Okay, the next item is approval of minutes, and we have 2 minutes on the agenda, one from March 27th and one from April 24th of this year, but I don't believe we have a quorum to hear those, so we'll just table that, and we'll consider those at the next meeting. Does that sound good, Paul? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we do have 2 cases on the agenda that was just approved tonight, 1-2017, and then the other one is 2-2017. And let's see, should I go ahead and read this information?
We can do that for that's for the PUD, but if you want to go ahead.
Okay. Is the PUD the first?
No, that's the second case.
Okay. So we're going to do 1-2017. Okay. So we'll go ahead and call case 1-2017. It's a zone change request from E Retail and C Residence to double E Retail planned retail. This is located at 8517 Beachmont Avenue, Anderson Township. And it's filed by the applicant Imad Sadak and Hollis K.R. Trude on behalf of Holly Freckles LLC property owner.
It's up here.
Okay. So I would like to ask the applicant to come forward for a moment, because you can come forward, Mr. Walker, if you'd like. Since we do not have a full board this evening, normally we have 5 members of this board. So under our rules of procedure, to pass your case, you will need to have 3 members affirmative. And that rule holds whether we have all 5 or we just have 3, as we have tonight. So we will give you the option, if you wish, to, it's just a coincidence, we don't have 3. I don't believe we have any conflicts, just people are otherwise engaged or out of town. So if you would like to request that the case be continued to a full board to next month, you may do so. Otherwise, we're more than happy to hear your case with the 3 of us tonight.
Well, I really think that'll be up to these guys, and if you guys want to have the board. Do next month? Okay, yeah, so we'll request that it be continued till next month.
Okay.
Both
And-
cases?
Is it just for the one or for both cases? Just for the first, just for this one.
The zone change.
8517.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll continue that case until next month, so apologies for everybody coming out tonight, but thank you for coming, and we'll table that case till next month for a full board, 1-2017. So if you were here for that case tonight, you're welcome to stay for the second case. Otherwise, we are not going to be hearing that case tonight. You don't need to stay. Okay. The second case is case 2-2017, planned unit development for expanded parking lot for Cincinnati Used Auto. This is located at 8260 Beachmont Avenue, Zoned E Retail. This is filed by Mark Walker of Walker and Associates on behalf of Imad Sadak, is the property owner. And I guess I'll read this procedure. So we do have procedure for these types of hearings, which is considered to be a quasi-judicial hearing. The procedures the commission will follow in hearing deciding this matter. Our decision is subject to appeal to the Board of Township Trustees and then to the Court of Common Pleas. As a result, we must employ different procedures from other cases that are typically presented to the Zoning Commission. Because this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, the Commission will only receive evidence as to whether the application meets or does not meet the standards and criteria in the zoning resolution. We would not want to hear opinions, just the facts. As a result, all persons presenting testimony before the Commission, whether for or against the applicant's position, may only do so after being sworn in and being subject to cross-examination. The staff will present a summary of the application. The applicant will then present its case. Board members may ask questions of the staff and anyone who speaks on behalf of the applicant. If an attorney presents the case for the applicant, the attorney is not sworn and is not considered to be a witness. As a result, the attorney's statements are not considered as evidence. Evidence only comes in through the witnesses who testify before the Commission after being sworn in. The burden is on the applicant to present evidence that the application satisfies the standards and criteria for the approval. After the applicant presents its case through its witnesses, all persons in the audience supporting the application will be permitted to testify one at a time after being recognized by the chair. When all persons supporting the application are finished, those opposed to the application will then be permitted to testify after being recognized. If anybody is in opposition is represented by an attorney, that party will go first, followed by any members of the audience. Is anybody represented by an attorney tonight? Okay. As stated previously, all persons wishing to testify, whether for or against the application, may do so only after being sworn in. When testifying, each person from the audience must come forward to the podium after being recognized, speak into the microphone, and state their name, address, and any affiliation with the case. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a commission member requests that they be given additional time. All testimony is directed to the commission only. No comments or questions are directed to the applicant or anyone else in the audience. And this is important as well. The commission will only hear new and non-repetitive evidence or questions. Should someone wish to show support for previous testimony, they may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating they support the previous testimony. So we will have to swear in everybody who will be giving testimony tonight. Please stand and raise your right hand and swear or affirm. So if you think you might say something, okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Drury, can you please read the summary for case 2, 2017?
Push your buttons on it. Do that.
Oh, we need to turn on the monitor. Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr.
Right
Chair.
on the
This
very
is on the very front of your monitor. Sorry about that. I realized you all had blank screens. This is case 2, 2017 PUD, which stands for Plan Unit Development. The applicant is Mark Walker of Walker and Associates on behalf of the property owner Imad Sadiq. The location is at 8260 Beachmont Avenue, and the current zoning there is E, retail business. The request is to expand the parking area and the storage for vehicles for car sales on the site. So a little bit of history on this. The current use was approved in 2008, and this was a change of use from the former Meineke to auto sales. In 2009, 2 service bays were converted into paint booths, and then in 2011, there was a large expansion of the parking lot at that time. It did not require a PUD hearing because of the impervious surface area of the site did not exceed 60%. This expansion would bring the impervious surface up to 76%, so therefore that is why you're hearing this tonight as a PUD review, a plan unit development review, because the impervious surface exceeds 60%. Surface ratio exceeds 60%. And then last but not least, in 2016, an electronic message sign was added to the existing freestanding sign. So this is the site in question. This is the existing building and the property. House Vets for House Pets is to the west of the property, and then to the east of the property is Penn Station. Both of these properties, to the east is zoned, this is the Penn Station property, is zoned EE planned retail and OO planned office. There is an office building just off of the map here. To the west is zoned EPUD. This was also a planned unit development that was approved through the Zoning Commission for House Vets for House Pets. Across the street on the south is E Retail, which is a shopping center, and then to the north is C Residence, and there are single-family homes to the north of the site in question. This is a topography site. Some of this was altered. The topography was altered with the last parking lot expansion, and the applicant can speak to this, but a detention area was created, and this area was leveled to prepare for the parking lot expansion. But as you can tell, there is a swale that still runs through this, and I say swale, it's a creek, a large creek that goes through this area and eventually flows south under Beachmont Avenue behind Arthur's, or around Arthur's, and behind near Plants by Wolfangle and Taco Bell, through that area and down through New England Club. This is an aerial of the site in question, so you can see the current conditions. This was from 2015, the aerial was. This area to the north is the grassy area that the applicant is proposing to pave to expand the parking lot. This is a fence, a privacy fence that was installed in 2011 to buffer the parking lot to residents that are just off of the aerial to the north. This is the office building that was referring to. This is U-Haul and U-Haul storage, and again, House Vets for House Vets, and Advance Auto Parts, or the other auto store. Thank you. This is the proposed site plan, again, to add to the parking area in that existing green, the grassy area to the north. So this is what the applicants are proposing. They're proposing to add 25 new parking spaces. This would bring the total parking that was approved in 2011 to 25 plus what was approved. So the total would be 84 on this site, would be the number of spaces total. They are showing these as extended parking spaces, so strictly for auto storage, and auto sales, not for customer parking. So this isn't proposed as a standard parking lot. But again, this would increase the impervious surface area of the site to 76%. These are just different, the stormwater plan. It's hard to see on these slides. Just the overall site itself. This is just to demonstrate where the swale actually is currently on the site in the stormwater system. So these are the site photos. This is in the front looking toward the east, generally looking in the north. There is a billboard on the site, which was mentioned in the staff report. This is a non-conforming billboard. There, in the site photos, you'll see 2 rows of parking in the front of the building, and this is not how the plan was approved in 2011. The plan in 2011, we issued a zoning certificate for, only identified 1 row of parking in the front of the building. And you can see they've converted it to 2 rows of parking instead of the 1 row of parking. This is the existing freestanding sign, which is non-conforming as well, due both to the height and the overall size of the sign, so that is non-conforming. We did issue a zoning certificate for the electronic reader board because this was a face change. So they were permitted to change out the face of a regular sign to electronic reader board sign. So that was a permitted zoning certificate. This is just looking in both directions again, toward Penn Station. This is looking toward the east. There is a sidewalk that comes from the east These cars are parked on the grass, which is not a permitted, they are not permitted to park on the grass. This is where the sidewalk was striped on the plan that was approved in 2011, but as you can see from the photo, and this has been a reoccurring problem since 2011, the cars do not stay free of this area. So even though the plan that was approved shows a striped area for sidewalk and pedestrians to connect to house vets for house pets, it has not been kept clear of vehicles. The township installed this landscape island many years ago, and I can't remember the exact, but when the township did landscape islands up and down Beachmont Avenue, I'd say it's probably been almost 10 years now. So that was installed with the township. The applicant during 2011, I believe, did close off this curb cut. So they have consolidated curb cuts into one curb cut, and we'll talk about that in the staff report a little bit later. Just other site photos. This is looking, this is Beachmont Avenue here, so this is looking south, but this is the main entrance as you pull into Beachmont Avenue. This is the shared property line between house vets or house pets and Cincinnati Used Auto. This is the other side between Penn Station. This is the parking lot in the back. This was a landscape island that was supposed to, that was created in 2011 with the site plan, but landscaping was never installed, and there is a truck parked in the landscaping island. So I'm just bringing these items to your attention because they are noted in the staff report, just so you can see the pictures of them. So this is the proposed area for the parking lot expansion in the grassy area. This was the fence that was installed with that approval. There were lights installed and approved with the 2011, so the lighting is compliant now. At the time they were installed, there were lights on the back of the building that were installed, but those, I believe, have been put, shields have been placed on those, so they're not shining onto adjacent neighbors. So this is just the area with the proposed parking lot expansion. To the north is Zone C, and there are single-family homes to the north of this property. So with the PUD, the first item we look at is the zoning resolution and do a review of what's in compliance and what's not in compliance with the zoning resolution, and then we look at the applicable plans that are in place for this part of the township. So the applicable plans that we looked at is our comprehensive plan, our Anderson Trails plan, the Beachmont Corridor plan, and then our Anderson Township Design Guidelines. So these are the areas that are not in compliance with the current zoning. Either they are in zoning violation or they're not in compliance with the site plan that was approved in 2011. So we have loading and access. There was no lighting plan submitted with this proposal, so we put a lighting plan on here just because we couldn't verify if lighting was compliant or not. Parking area, 10 feet from the residential use. The site plan that's before you does not have a 10-foot setback from the property line with the proposed addition. Parking area too close to the right-of-way. Again, on the site plan that was approved in 2011, it was compliant, but it's not, the cars are being parked too close and on the striped area for the sidewalk. The second item, or the next item, is the sidewalk delineated with a painted line. Design standards, currently no parking in the striped area in the back. I don't know if you could see that, but in the front, again, what was approved was one row of parking, and there's 2 rows of parking. In the back, there was no striping or it had worn off. No parking for the physically disabled. Dumpsters and trash handling area was not fully enclosed, and then bicycle parking is not provided. Looking at the applicable plans for the Township Comprehensive Plan, the Township Comprehensive Plan does identify this area for general retail. Auto sales and retail is consistent with that designation. And then there are several areas, economic health and land use and development, that we chose out of the Anderson plan where we felt that this was consistent with the comprehensive plan recommendations. The Anderson Trails plan, again, we've talked about the sidewalk in the front. So if this moves forward, staff recommends that a sidewalk be constructed across the frontage to tie into both properties on the east and the west. And a mechanism be in place that prevents cars from parking on that connection. Also, the requirement is to tie in that sidewalk to the front door. That would be consistent with Anderson Trails plan. Beachmont Corridor Plan, the corridor plan, this site is compliant with the corridor plan. As you saw, its property used to have 2 curb cuts in the front. The applicants eliminated one, and their other curb cut is consolidated with House Vets for House Pets. So there is an access easement in place between those 2 businesses to allow them to share the one access point, which is consistent with the corridor plan. As far as the landscape plan, as you could see, the township installed one of the landscaping islands, but the landscaping on the other part is not being maintained. Design guidelines. The parking is recommended to be in the side and the rear primarily, which is the case in this particular use. However, cars are being continuously parked out on the grass in the front, which is not permitted. It's not consistent with the design guidelines. Also, in addition to the landscaping we just talked about, a landscaping plan and photometric plan were not submitted with this application, so more information is needed whether the proposed use would be consistent with the design guidelines or not. And then one other thing I mentioned earlier, I don't think is on this slide, but it's in the staff report, signage-wise, the freestanding sign is not compliant because of the size and the height, the area and the height, and there is a billboard on the site. So the signage is not consistent with the township design guidelines. In past cases with PUDs, the zoning commission has required the billboards be removed from the properties once the lease has expired. So recommendations, staff is of the opinion that not enough information was provided. A landscaping plan was not provided, a lighting plan was not provided, and it hasn't been demonstrated compliance with the original zoning certificate in 2011. So staff is of the opinion that those items need to be addressed. In addition, I just listed in the staff report and on the presentation the general standards for PUD approval. So that's what these are 1 through. These are not recommended conditions. These are just item 1 through 14 are just the standards, general standards for PUD approval. We did note recommended conditions. Again, the site plan shall, or the site shall come into compliance in 2008, 2011, if this is approved. Lighting plan shall be submitted to show compliance with the minimum requirements of the zoning resolution. A landscaping plan. Parking shall be redesigned to be in compliance with the zoning resolution, including a 10-foot buffer from the residential district adjacent to the northern portion of the site. And then the freestanding sign and the billboard shall come into compliance with the signage section of the zoning resolution. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Reagan, any questions for Mr. Drury?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Mr. Baggio?
If I'm understanding correctly, the sidewalk in the front is there, but there's nothing to keep cars from going onto it, and right now that's what's being done. But the sidewalk is actually there.
Well, in 2011, they chose just to stripe the pavement, so there's no physical sidewalk. It was meant to be striped to allow for that. There's a physical connection on it both from the east and the west, but the proposal was to just stripe that area for pedestrian access.
Okay, thank you.
The buffer in the back to the residential, there's a fence there. Is that the only buffer that's necessary under the PUD when you join the residential?
A PUD allows for an evaluation to be site-specific, so, you know, to take into consideration the elevation of this parking lot versus the residents behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The general standard is either, it's a minimum of 4-foot tall solid buffer, so that is the normal zoning standard and the 10-foot setback. However, the PUD allows each site to be evaluated on its own merits.
So it looks like there's no setback here, really, if this
And
would
then
be
just
approved.
the 6-foot privacy fence.
Okay. And Has the zoning enforcement code officer received any complaints about this property?
Not,
Hold on to that photo for
yeah,
a sec.
which one?
That one there. You
This
just-
one?
No,
This
that
one.
one there, yeah. Do you have any complaints on it?
We've received complaints, numerous complaints, since 2000, well, actually since they moved in. As far as recent, within the past, I don't know what you define recent.
In that photo, I noticed when I was out there, there's a good amount of, those are weeds in between the properties, right? Or is that?
No, it's bamboo.
Oh, is it?
And that
Okay.
was bamboo planted by, I believe, House Vets for House Pets to
Okay.
provide a screening
I
between the
gotcha.
two properties.
I apologize. Okay. Thank you. No more questions from me. Okay, would the applicant like to come forward and present your case to us, please? Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Mark Walker with MD Walker and Associates, and I'm the engineer for the applicant. And, yeah, my client obviously has a car lot, and he's looking to ease some of the congestion on the lot. And the parking expansion is obviously what we're looking to do. Some of the issues that are brought up from the past zoning commission cases, I'm not quite sure how to address those other than to, get the client to agree to, some specific redresses for those. I would like to address the lighting issue. The existing area where we're proposing the parking lot has existing lighting there that was part of a previous zoning approval. So I didn't know that we needed to redo the lighting plan for existing lighting. Is that something we need to do?
If the lighting, sorry, Mike, if the lighting for that back parking lot, because currently the lights are shining toward the building, so if you're planning to light the parking expansion any at all, then we would need to review.
Well, they are
Our
shining
lighting
towards the
plan.
building, but they are also about midway between the existing edge of parking and that rear fence. So they're right in the middle of the parking lot. So we consider that sufficient for any proposed use.
Okay.
And so we weren't really proposing any new lighting, so that was why we didn't have that in there. The drainage, there's an underground detention system that sits back in that area, and it was designed to be, below surface, so the parking is just going to be on top of that. It'll be modified slightly to handle the additional drainage capacity that it'll need, and that's already, and that'll meet Hamilton County stormwater requirements. And the only other issue that I know to address would be the setbacks. There is a 5.5-foot setback between the pavement and the rear fence, and I think quite easily it could be modified to a 10-foot setback. Those parking stalls are extremely deep there because they're not designed for, typical pull-in, pull-out parking. So that would certainly be something that I'd be amenable to. And other than that, if anybody had any questions, I'd be happy to attempt to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Walker? Mr. Reagan?
Yes. Do you have an exact measurement of the distance between the proposed expansion and the nearby residential properties?
The property themselves or the structure?
The properties.
5.47 feet.
Okay, thank you. And do you know if this is simply to accommodate the number of cars on the lot? Because it seems like the property owners are, getting a little creative with parking their inventory. Is this simply to just kind of bleed out that extra space, or are there plans for a net increase in the amount of cars on the lot?
I'm personally not aware of that,
Okay.
so you might have to ask the owners.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. DeBaggio?
Yeah, my question is concerning, you mentioned that the drainage is going to be modified slightly. Could you expand upon that a bit, so I have a better understanding?
Well, I wasn't actually the engineer who performed the detention calculations, so I'm not exactly sure how he modified it, but typically you adjust the invert of some of the orifices that are inside the outlet structures to provide more volume inside. Is that?
Okay, so you're saying that you believe that that's what's been done?
They haven't done anything yet. That will be part of the proposal that goes to Hamilton County Stormwater that will be reviewed by them and hopefully approved because it will meet the Hamilton County Stormwater requirements.
Okay, so no stormwater testing has, or not testing, there's a word I'm missing, I'm sorry.
Modifications?
Yeah, well, that they have not been investigated as of yet. It's a plan thing. If this is approved, then you're planning on doing it.
Correct, correct. And it won't be done until it's approved by the Hamilton County Stormwater District.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I had a question too, Mr. Walker, on the detention. I just heard you say you didn't do the detention, I understand that. How old is that detention system? Because it's underground in pipes, right?
That's correct, but it's my understanding that it's fairly new, maybe 2011.
2011, it was newly installed? at that
Yeah,
time?
because remember, you saw some of those first GIS drawings that showed quite a bit of topography in the back of the lot.
Right.
And I guess in 2011, it was regraded, and that's when that detention was put in that area.
Okay,
It
so
was
not that
flagged
old,
down.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, so for everybody who is sworn in who would like to speak in favor of the case, would you please come forward, give us your name and address, please? Okay. Anybody in opposition who would like to speak on the case, please give us, come forward and give us your name and address.
My name is Brad Ackle. I'm actually at 1927 Sandcliff Drive, but I'm here with my parents who are at 8235 Wood Glen Drive, which is the property just north of this property. And I don't know that we're against the change. It's just that we have a lot of questions, and it sounds like with the staff review that a lot of those questions were brought up. We see some grading lines that are going outside the property limits. It looks like that back end of the property is being raised up, and we just want to know if that fence is also going to be raised up. The 8235 property sits up high, and so they look down into that lot, and we just want to make sure that that fence is raised along with it. There's a major creek that runs back there, and there's been all kinds of stormwater issues with that downstream. It has nothing to do with this property, but in the past, the creek has backed up quite a bit, and we just want to make sure that that storm detention is meets the county standards on that. So, and then of course the lighting. Right now, there's not an issue with the lighting, and if nothing's going to change with the lighting, I don't think we have a problem with that, but we would just like some more information on that as well. So.
Any questions for Mr. Ackle, Mr. Reagan,
None at this time, thank you.
Ms. DeBaggio?
None
Any
at this
questions for
time.
Mr. Ackle? Okay, thanks a lot, Mr.
All right,
Ackle.
thanks.
Who else would like to speak on the case? Opposition, or if you have something you'd just like to share with us about the case? Okay. Seeing no further anybody wanting to speak on this, we'll go ahead and close the public portion. We can have deliberation among the board members. So what we've done now is we've accepted the information from Mr. Drury, from the public. We have written remarks. So what the board will do now is we will discuss the case among ourselves and hopefully be able to reach a motion to dispositive of the case. So who would like to go first? There's a lot to talk about on this case, I think. So I'd really be interested to see what you all have to say. Do you want to kick it off, Mr. Reagan? Keep jumping to him first. If you can.
Why not?
Please go ahead.
I'm familiar with the site. I think reading through the staff report and looking at the plans and examining all of the factors that go into a case like this, my only concerns are with the fact that this expansion will be very close to residential property, and especially given that this is 12,000 additional square feet of space. If they're going to be adding lighting back there, which the zoning resolution requires, we just need to make sure that we're not going to be disturbing residential property owners, and also that we're proactive when it comes to storm drainage, because we wouldn't want any additional issues raised by such a large expansion. And I would agree with a lot of what the staff recommended, especially when it comes to ensuring compliance with the zoning certificates issued in 2008 and 2011, just making sure that pedestrians are able to pass in front of the property, and that just generally aesthetically and as property owners, everything is being kept up to regulation. But it's really the fact that this is very close to a residential property, and there are potential storm drainage issues that do give me some pause.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. DiBaggio, do you have some remarks on this?
I would like to have seen perhaps a lighting plan, even if it was just a continuation of what is going to be there, so that we can ensure that it does meet what is supposed to be there. I'd like to see a detailed landscaping plan as well. The redesign of the parking lot, it's not meeting the 10-foot buffer that's supposed to be there at minimum to the residents, so I'd like to see that come into play as well. I also want to see that sidewalk. There are people that walk on Beachmont all the time. I would like to see them kept a little safer. And the fact that we're not exactly in compliance with what has already been passed is troublesome to me. But for me, a major concern is that stormwater runoff. I know, unless I'm mistaken, Paul, that is the one that eventually goes back right between Wolf Angle and, well, it used to be where Taco Bell now is, and it now goes back behind all of that. And what was it, 2 years ago, we had a humongous sinkhole there that was caused by so much running water. I would foresee that we'd have more running water. Do I think we'll have another sinkhole, seeing what they did? Maybe not, but it shouldn't be, that problem shouldn't be passed down the road. So that concerns me. I'd like to know exactly what it is they plan on, how that is being addressed, just to make sure we don't have a problem that is caused farther down or farther west on Beachmont. That's kind of it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just add a few comments. I do agree with what's been said by the board. I do think that the rear buffer is inadequate. And this is a case that's interesting because we've kind of progressed in steps with the rear parking there. I think if we would have gone from what it was, I think in maybe 2011 to this today, it would seem pretty extreme and insufficient buffer. And in particular, I thought the testimony was helpful on the change in topography. And so I am worried that it's really pushing the limits of what this site can reasonably handle, in particular as it backs onto the residents there. Beachmont Avenue's tough. We've got these properties that back onto residential, and the best question is, how are they going to coexist? And I think this one is, it's really not even close. I think it's just being overdeveloped with impervious surface, just looking at the plan. The other thing too is as we go through the staff, or as I go through the staff report, I kind of check marks, and I do really appreciate the applicant that they took over the Meineke. There's nothing worse than a abandoned building sitting on Beachmont. And they have some nice cars there. I drove by the facility, and they've got some really nice vehicles there. On the other hand, there's a real track record that's been established as well, unfortunately, and I'm not going to go over it again, but it's not difficult as a business owner, I think, to just do what you say you're going to do in those plans, which is, keep the cars off the sidewalk, keep the landscaping up. And it's difficult with car dealers and you got inventory coming in, where do you put it and stuff like that. So I think if the applicant would go back, come into compliance with what's out there already, show that they can run a good lot, maybe in the future I would consider this more favorably. Right now, I don't feel like I can. And I do think the lighting, I did see the lights there, and it looks like they're directed inward, which is good, but I do feel like once the inventory is back there, they're going to want to shift those, so I think the lighting could be helpful. A lot more detail on the buffering would be helpful. So that would be my thoughts. Mr. Reagan?
Well, I would just like to note that the current plans would have the expanded parking lot only 5.47, less than 5.5 feet from a residential property, and that could affect the ability of the current property owners to sell or otherwise transfer the property in the future. And that's what gives me the most pause, is that really close proximity.
Okay. Well, thanks for your comment. I think we may be ready for a motion. Would somebody like to make a motion on case 2-2017?
Yes. I move to continue this case until studies on potential storm drainage issues have been completed, assurances that the site will be in compliance with the original approved zoning certificates issued in 2008 and 2011 are included, and the site is redesigned to comply with the zoning resolution, most notably to ensure at least a 10-foot buffer between the expansion of the parking lot and adjoining residential properties, and that a lighting plan and landscaping plan are both submitted with revised plans for future consideration by this commission.
I second.
And there's a second. And I just want to say I do like the motion, and I'm going to probably be against that motion. Not that I think all your points are well taken, but my feeling is that they should actually go back and establish a track record of compliance, and then I would be more than happy to do that. So I didn't want to be, I think your motion is on point, but I just was a little bit different place on that. So with that motion being made, is there a roll call, please?
Mr. Reagan?
Aye.
Ms. DeBaggio?
Aye.
Mr. Ellett?
Nay. That concludes our business. So that will, and I'd like at this time to close the meeting, if everybody agrees. Okay? And we're adjourned. Thank you.